The mall was loud in the way American malls always were on Saturdays, layers of sound stacked on top of each other. Pop music spilled from a shoe store. Kids screamed near the arcade. A barista shouted names over the hiss of steaming milk. Under all of it, there was the constant hum of footsteps and conversation, the sound of people moving with nowhere urgent to be. Emily Carter moved through the crowd quietly. She was 26, small-framed, dark hair pulled into a low ponytail, a canvas tote bag tucked under her arm. She wore a pale blue sweater and jeans, nothing that drew attention. Most people didn't notice her at all, and that was fine. Emily had learned early that moving unnoticed made life easier. She was mute. Not deaf, she could hear everything. Every laugh, every argument, every careless comment tossed into the air. She just couldn't answer back with her voice. A childhood illness had taken that from her, leaving her to communicate with a phone, a small notepad, or quick hand gestures when people were patient enough to wait. Most weren't. Emily stopped near the directory map in the center of the mall, tapping her phone to check the notes she'd typed earlier. She was here for one reason only: her younger brother's birthday gift. He just turned 15, and after months of saving, she planned to buy him the headphones he'd been obsessing over. She smiled faintly at the thought and turned toward the electronics wing. That was when she felt it. The sensation came before the awareness, an itch between her shoulder blades, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Emily slowed slightly, her grip tightening on the strap of her bag. She glanced sideways, scanning reflections in the glass storefronts. At first she saw nothing unusual, just shoppers, couples, a man arguing on his phone, a woman pushing a stroller. Then she saw him. He stood near a closed kiosk, pretending to scroll on his phone. Mid-30s, maybe early 40s, tall, broad shoulders, a dark hoodie pulled low despite the warmth inside the mall. His eyes lifted just enough for her to catch them in the reflection. They were locked on her. Emily's stomach tightened. She looked away quickly, telling herself she was overreacting. People looked at each other all the time. It didn't mean anything. She kept walking. The crowd thinned as she moved toward a quieter corridor lined with smaller specialty shops. The music faded. The air felt heavier. Her footsteps echoed faintly against the polished tile. Behind her, footsteps matched her pace. Not close enough to bump into her, not far enough to ignore. Emily's heart began to race. She turned into a stationery store, hopping to lose him among the aisles. The smell of paper and ink filled the air. She pretended to browse greeting cards, her eyes flicking toward the mirror mounted near the back. The man stepped inside a few seconds later. He didn't look at cards. He didn't look at notebooks. He stood near the entrance, blocking it, his phone now forgotten in his hand. When their eyes met directly this time, he smiled. It wasn't friendly. Emily swallowed hard and raised her phone, typing quickly. "Sorry," she wrote, holding it up. "I'm waiting for someone." The man chuckled under his breath. "Don't need to lie," he said. His voice was low, rough. "I saw you walking alone." Emily shook her head and typed again, faster now. "Please move. You're blocking the door." He stepped closer instead. "That's rude," he said, his smile fading. "Ignoring people like that." Her pulse pounded in her ears. She backed away instinctively, nearly knocking over a display of pens. Her fingers trembled as she typed. "I can't talk. Please leave me alone." The man's eyes flicked to the screen. Something dark passed over his face. "So you think you're better than me," he muttered. Before Emily could react, he reached out and grabbed her wrist. The contact sent a shock through her body. She gasped silently, dropping her phone as she tried to pull away. The man's grip tightened, his fingers digging into her skin. "Hey," someone called from outside the store. "What's going on in there?" The man released her instantly, stepping back with a practiced ease. "Nothing," he said loudly. She dropped her phone. Emily stumbled backward, her chest heaving. She bent quickly to grab her phone, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it again. When she looked up, the man was already walking out, blending back into the crowd. The employee behind the counter frowned. "Are you okay?" Emily nodded automatically, forcing a small smile she didn't feel. She typed yes and held up the screen, not trusting herself to do anything else. But her wrist throbbed. Red marks were already blooming beneath her sleeve. She left the store moments later, her excitement about the gift completely gone. All she wanted now was to get out of the mall. She headed toward the nearest exit, weaving through people, her senses on high alert. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sudden movement made her flinch. Halfway down the corridor, she saw him again. This time, he wasn't pretending to be on his phone. He was waiting. Emily stopped short, panic flooding her chest. She turned sharply, changing direction, but he adjusted instantly, cutting her off with long strides. "Why you running?" he asked, his voice sharp now, impatient. "I was just being friendly." She shook her head frantically, holding up her hands. Her phone slipped from her grasp and clattered to the floor, sliding out of reach. The man's expression hardened. "That's it," he said. "You don't get to act like I'm the bad guy." He grabbed her arm again, harder this time, yanking her toward a narrow hallway marked employees only. Emily struggled, her shoes skidding against the tile. She tried to scream, but no sound came out, only a raw, silent gasp. People walked past the corridor entrance without looking in. The man shoved her against the wall. Her shoulder hit first, pain exploding down her arm. He leaned close, his breath hot against her cheek. "No one's listening," he whispered. Tears filled Emily's eyes. She clawed at his sleeve, trying to break free, her chest burning with terror. Her mind raced, searching for anything, any way to make this stop. Then she heard it. A low, powerful bark echoed down the hallway. The sound wasn't frantic, it wasn't distant. It was close. Very close. The man froze, his grip loosening just slightly as another bark followed. Deeper this time, authoritative, filled with warning. Footsteps thundered toward them. Emily's eyes widened as a shadow appeared at the far end of the hallway, large and fast-moving, and she realized with a surge of desperate hope that whatever was coming was not coming for her. And the man holding her seemed to realize it too. The commotion in the mall escalated in seconds. Shoppers froze, some screaming, others scrambling for safety, as the man's hands gripped the mute woman's arm with shocking force. She struggled, her eyes wide with fear, her body twisting, but without a voice. Her pleas went unheard, except by one witness, Officer Daniels, K9 partner, Titan. The massive German shepherd had been calmly patrolling nearby, his ears perking up the instant he sensed danger. He growled low, a guttural warning that made the attacker glance over his shoulder, eyes narrowing. Titan's handler, Officer Daniels, was just 10 feet away, scanning the crowd, unaware of the looming threat. Titan barked sharply, lunging forward, teeth bared, his powerful frame moving faster than anyone could anticipate. The attacker faltered, pulling the woman closer as if to use her as a shield. But Titan was relentless. He stopped a mere foot away, teeth inches from the man's arm, growling with a terrifying intensity that froze the attacker in place. The woman's hands trembled, her fingers clawing at the man's grip, trying to pry herself free. Titan circled them, muscles rippling, eyes locked on the danger, tail stiff but controlled, signaling precision, not chaos. The mall erupted into shouts, people backing away, smartphones out, capturing every tense second. The attacker's confidence wavered as Titan advanced, a living wall of authority and instinct. Officer Daniels finally reacted, whistle in hand, voice commanding, "Titan, hold him." The dog's ears twitched, obeying instantly. The attacker's gaze darted to the approaching officer, sweat beading on his forehead. He weighed his options, heart hammering, fight the dog and risk a mauling, or flee and face imminent arrest. Suddenly, the woman stumbled, nearly falling, and the man tightened his grip instinctively. Titan reacted instantly, circling tighter, growls escalating. The attacker's breath hitched, panic overtaking his aggression. People in the crowd started recording, murmuring warnings, and someone shouted for mall security. But no one moved close. The dog's presence alone was enough to keep them at bay. The tension was unbearable, every second stretched, a heartbeat away from disaster. Titan's teeth gleamed, his growls a warning, yet he held his position, calculating, waiting for the command. The man's eyes darted frantically, trying to find an escape route, but the maze of shoppers blocked him, Titan's looming form a living barricade. Then, in an instant, the attacker made a desperate move, shoving the woman toward the escalator, attempting to escape into the crowd. Titan lunged, but the question hung in the air. Would the dog stop him in time, or would chaos erupt, putting everyone nearby at risk? If you want, I can immediately continue with Part 3, keeping the cinematic tension and suspense climbing, where the confrontation intensifies and the woman's life hangs in the balance. Do you want me to continue straight to Part 3? Continue Part 31,200 wards. Here's Part 3 of your story, continuing the cinematic, suspenseful, and fast-paced style. The attacker shoved the woman toward the escalator with reckless force, desperation twisting his features. Titan's powerful legs sprang into motion, closing the distance in a heartbeat. His growl transformed into a thunderous bark that reverberated through the mall, freezing shoppers mid-step. The woman's eyes widened in terror, realizing escape was suddenly within reach, or so she hoped. Titan reached the man just as he twisted, trying to push past the dog. The German Shepherd's jaws clamped onto the man's arm with surgical precision, holding him firm, pain flaring across his face. The attacker roared, swinging wildly, but Titan shifted, agile and controlled, keeping the woman out of harm's way. Shoppers gasped and recorded, their smartphones catching every second of the tense standoff. Officer Daniels was sprinting now, badge gleaming, voice cutting through the chaos. "Titan, hold him." Titan responded instantly, ears back, teeth locked, muscles coiled like steel. The attacker tried to shake him off, but Titan's strength was overwhelming. The man's desperation escalated. He didn't just want to escape, he wanted to dominate, to regain control. But with every passing second, control slipped further from his grasp. The woman's hands clawed at the escalator handrail, her legs trembling as she tried to steady herself. Every movement she made threatened to trigger another reaction from her attacker, yet Titan's presence gave her a sliver of hope. Officer Daniels drew his taser, the bright yellow device aimed with steady hands, signaling the imminent intervention. Crowds of people formed a wide circle around the scene, whispering, shouting, and gasping. Mall security arrived, moving cautiously, coordinating silently with Officer Daniels, their walkie-talkies crackling with static urgency. Shoppers were immobilized between fascination and fear, some frozen in place, others fleeing for the exits, the air thick with tension. The attacker's eyes darted wildly, scanning the growing barrier of bodies, Titan's unyielding stance, and the approaching officer. Panic clawed at him. Each second felt like an eternity. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his breaths ragged, but he made one last reckless decision. With a guttural yell, he tried to yank the woman toward the nearest exit, ignoring the searing pain in his arm. Titan reacted instantly, muscles coiling, jaws snapping closer, growls escalating into an earth-shaking roar. The dog's movements were precise, calculated, not chaotic, aimed solely at neutralizing the threat. The woman stumbled backward, fear flashing in her eyes, and time seemed to slow. And then a sharp, metallic echo reverberated through the mall. Someone had dropped something, or was it a warning? The attacker froze, Titan hesitated just a fraction, and Officer Daniels shouted, adrenaline raw, "Freeze!" For a heartbeat, everything hung in perfect, terrifying balance. Would Titan subdue the man in time, or would the attacker make a sudden move that could endanger everyone? The metallic echo had shattered the momentary stillness, sending shoppers ducking behind kiosks and benches. The attacker froze, eyes wide, his grip on the woman faltering. Titan's growl deepened, vibrating through the polished mall floor like a warning drum. Officer Daniels closed the distance, taser raised, heart pounding with a rhythm that matched the chaos around him. The woman's hands shook as she gripped the escalator handrail, legs trembling. She could feel the attacker's panic, every heartbeat erratic, every muscle coiled for desperation. Titan held firm, unyielding, his dark eyes locked on the man, muscles tensed, ready for any sudden move. The attacker's sweat glistened under the mall lights, his breathing sharp, ragged. Every second stretched, each one heavy with the potential for disaster. Mall security circled carefully, walkie-talkies crackling instructions. Shoppers whispered in fear, phones pointed, recording the unfolding standoff. Time seemed to slow, the air thick with tension. The attacker's mind raced, fight, flee, or surrender, but the presence of Titan and the approaching officer narrowed his options rapidly. His confidence crumbled, replaced by raw panic. Suddenly, the attacker made a reckless move, twisting violently and jerking the woman toward the atrium. Titan lunged instinctively, teeth clamping on the man's arm again, the force sending him staggering backward. The woman stumbled, nearly losing her balance, her eyes wide with terror. A gasp ran through the crowd, a mixture of shock and awe at the dog's precision. Officer Daniels stepped forward, voice commanding, "Titan, hold him, don't let go." The dog's ears flicked. Obedience and instinct merged seamlessly. The attacker struggled, thrashing violently, but Titan's grip and presence left him trapped. Sweat and fear streaked his face, adrenaline surging, but there was no clear path to escape. Then, just as the man seemed on the verge of surrender, a piercing scream echoed from the upper level. A child, stranded near the railing, crying out in fear. The attacker's eyes flicked toward the sound, a split-second distraction. Titan's growl sharpened, muscles taut, ready to react. Officer Daniels' mind raced. Any hesitation could put the woman, the child, or shoppers in danger. The attacker's desperation surged. With a sudden, violent pull, he tried to twist free from Titan's hold. The dog reacted instantly, snapping, lunging, maintaining control. The woman stumbled backward, nearly toppling into a display of fragile glassware, and the crowd gasped, some screaming for him to stop, some frozen in disbelief. And then through the chaos, a mall security alarm blared, red lights flashing. The attacker's eyes widened. His brief distraction with the child had allowed Officer Daniels to reposition for the perfect angle. Titan growled, unwavering, and the standoff teetered on a knife's edge. Would the attacker surrender, or would the chaos erupt into something uncontrollable, threatening everyone nearby? The alarm's piercing wail filled the mall, a cacophony of red lights and flashing sirens bouncing off the glass and tile. The attacker's grip on the mute woman faltered for a fraction of a second, enough for Titan to tighten his hold, muscles coiled like springs ready to strike. Officer Daniels closed the distance with precise, deliberate steps, taser in hand, eyes locked on the man's every twitch. The woman's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic rhythm echoing the chaos around her. Shoppers pressed their phones to their faces, capturing every detail, their murmurs swelling into a chorus of fear and disbelief. Every second felt stretched, heavy with imminent danger. She had no voice to call for help, only wide eyes and trembling hands, but Titan's presence was a shield, a lifeline amidst the madness. The attacker's panic escalated, his mind racing through every possible escape. He could feel Titan's powerful jaws clamped on his arm, each muscle of the dog taut with precision and control. Officer Daniels barked another command, "Titan, don't let go." The German shepherd obeyed without hesitation, his dark eyes burning with focus, a predator in perfect harmony with his handler's intent. Suddenly, the man twisted violently, forcing the woman against a display rack. Glass shards rattled, falling like rain, and she screamed silently, her panic mirrored in the widening eyes of onlookers. Titan lunged, adjusting his stance to protect her, teeth snapping dangerously close to the attacker. The crowd gasped, some stumbling backward, others frozen in disbelief at the raw power and precision on display. A security guard shouted from the second floor, "Back him into the corridor." The attacker's desperation surged. He glanced around, searching for an escape route, but Titan anticipated every move, every shift in balance. With a growl that resonated through the air, the dog forced him toward a narrow corridor near the food court, effectively cutting off all avenues of retreat. Officer Daniels advanced steadily, voice calm but firm. "It's over. Drop your hands." The attacker's eyes darted between Titan's unwavering stare and the approaching officer, his pulse pounding, thoughts a jumbled mess of fear and aggression. Sweat dripped down his face, heart hammering in his chest. For the first time, he felt true vulnerability. Then a sudden distraction. A small child ran past the corridor, laughing and unaware of the danger, her presence slicing through the tension like a knife. The attacker's gaze flicked toward her, an instinct screamed within him, to flee, to grab, to take control again. Titan's growl deepened, a low, threatening vibration that warned of immediate consequence. Officer Daniels clenched his taser, ready for any sudden escalation. The standoff reached its zenith. The attacker's muscles tensed, Titan coiled like a spring. The mute woman pressed against the wall, her breath shallow, every heartbeat amplified by fear. A single wrong move could spark chaos, panic from the crowd, harm to the innocent, or a confrontation no one could stop. And then in that pregnant moment, the question hung over everyone. Would the attacker make one last desperate attempt, or would the combined force of human and canine end the nightmare before disaster struck? The corridor felt impossibly tight, echoing with Titan's low growl and the frantic shuffle of the attacker's feet. Officer Daniels' heart raced, every sense heightened. One misstep could turn the crowded mall into a scene of chaos. The mute woman's eyes darted around, panic gripping her chest like iron. Titan's stance was unwavering, muscles coiled, teeth gleaming under the fluorescent lights, a living warning that left no room for escape. The attacker, drenched in sweat, realized his options were gone. The narrow corridor trapped him, Titan blocked his path, and Officer Daniels advanced, voice sharp and commanding. Now, surrender or face the consequences. But fear, raw and unfiltered, twisted his reasoning. Panic made him reckless. He swung violently, trying to shove Titan aside and push past the officer. Titan reacted instantly. The dog lunged, not blindly but with perfect precision, snapping at the man's jacket, forcing him backward. The attacker staggered, nearly tripping over a display of snack carts. The woman froze, eyes wide, caught between terror and hope. Every movement was amplified, the metallic scrape of the cart, the growl reverberating off the walls, the officer's rapid, controlled steps. Officer Daniels pulled his taser, aiming with meticulous precision. "Drop it now." His voice was steady, authoritative, slicing through the chaos. The attacker's gaze flicked to the glowing electrodes, then to Titan's unyielding stance. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, and his knuckles whitened as he tightened his grip on the woman's arm. In that split second, a decision had to be made. The attacker lunged forward in sheer desperation, jerking the woman toward the escalator. Titan moved like a coiled spring, intercepting him mid-step. Teeth clamped onto the man's arm again, pain flaring across his face, adrenaline surging. The struggle was raw, violent, a collision of human desperation and canine instinct. Shoppers held their breath, smartphones raised, capturing the terrifying spectacle. Officer Daniels stepped closer, every nerve alert, voice calm but firm. "Enough, it's over." The attacker's resistance faltered. Panic clashed with pain, and in a moment of clarity born from fear, he froze. Titan's eyes held him, unwavering, while the officer advanced to take control. The mute woman finally found her balance, stepping back as Officer Daniels reached them. Titan released, obedience unwavering, but his growl lingered, a warning etched into the tensioned air. Security quickly moved in, securing the perimeter as the attacker slumped, realizing escape was impossible. And then a sudden ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Someone had recorded the entire ordeal. The footage would circulate, viral within hours. But for the woman, Officer Daniels, and Titan, the danger wasn't over. The mall was alive with adrenaline, hearts racing, eyes wide. What had just unfolded in the corridor would haunt and awe the witnesses for days to come, a reminder of how thin the line is between chaos and control. The attacker was handcuffed, his face pale, eyes darting nervously as officers led him away. Titan's chest heaved, ears flicking back, still alert, while Officer Daniels knelt beside the mute woman, gently guiding her to safety. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, fingers brushing her face as the adrenaline slowly ebbed from her veins. The crowd was a mix of awe, relief, and lingering shock, whispers rippling like a tide through the mall. Mall security ushered people away, but a few couldn't resist replaying the moment on their phones, showing Titan's unyielding courage and the attacker's desperate flailing. Social media would explode with videos and hashtags before the day ended. Yet for the woman, the noise felt distant, her world still vibrating with fear and gratitude, her heart struggling to slow. Officer Daniels checked her over carefully, asking gentle questions, though she could only shake her head or nod. Words weren't necessary, her eyes said everything: terror, relief, and awe at the dog who had saved her life. Titan leaned against Daniels' leg, still vigilant, the faintest twitch of his tail signaling both pride and lingering tension. Then a sudden murmur rose from the crowd. The man had a suspicious backpack, abandoned near the food court during the struggle. Officers moved quickly, eyes sharp, hearts racing. Officer Daniels signaled, and a bomb squad team arrived, tension cutting through the relief. The thought that the attacker might have left something dangerous behind sent a chill through everyone. The woman froze, realizing that her ordeal might not yet be over. Titan growled softly, sensing the lingering danger, muscles taut, ready to respond again. Shoppers backed away, eyes wide, some holding their phones high, some trembling at the thought of what could have happened. The mall transformed from a place of routine to a stage of lingering fear. Officer Daniels approached the backpack carefully, commands echoing through the hall. The crowd held their collective breath, every heartbeat amplified, every second stretching into eternity. Titan's stance remained unwavering, alert to the slightest movement, every fiber of his being anticipating danger. The attacker, still in custody, glared from behind the barrier, panic and rage mixing on his face. As Daniels slowly unzipped the backpack, a tense hush fell over the crowd. Every eye tracked the movement, every mind anticipating the worst. And then, inside the bag, a shocking revelation that left officers and bystanders alike frozen in disbelief. It wasn't what anyone expected, a twist that could change everything about the case and cast a shadow over the mall for weeks. Officer Daniels carefully pulled the item from the backpack, revealing a stack of suspicious documents, a few loose wires, and what looked like a timer. But closer inspection by the bomb squad revealed something entirely unexpected. The wires were harmless, disconnected, and the timer was broken. Instead of explosives, the bag contained counterfeit credit cards, fake IDs, and evidence of a larger fraud operation. The attacker hadn't intended a bombing at all. He'd panicked when caught in the act, and his violence had been a desperate attempt to escape arrest. The crowd exhaled collectively, relief washing over some, shock still gripping others. The mute woman pressed her hands to her face, tears streaming silently as Officer Daniels crouched beside her. "You're safe now," he murmured gently, voice calm amidst the lingering adrenaline. Titan nudged her leg, a living reassurance that she had survived the ordeal, his dark eyes softening, still alert but proud. The attacker was escorted away, shouting and protesting, but the evidence in his bag ensured he would face serious charges: assault, attempted theft, and possession of fraudulent documents. The mall slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, though whispers and phone recordings ensured the story would spread like wildfire. People would talk about Titan's heroism, the officer's bravery, and the woman who had survived a terrifying ordeal without uttering a word. As the woman left the mall, supported gently by Officer Daniels, she glanced back once. Titan stood near the escalator, chest heaving, eyes scanning the now calm crowd. Though she could not speak, her expression conveyed everything: gratitude, awe, and an unspoken bond with the dog who had saved her life. She reached out, patting his massive head, and for a fleeting second the mall held a moment of quiet, reverent pause. News crews arrived, broadcasting the story nationally within hours. Headlines would scream of a mute woman saved by a police dog, a tense standoff captured on countless phones, and the shocking discovery in the attacker's bag. Social media exploded with videos, hero tributes for Titan, and praise for Officer Daniels' quick thinking. But for those who had lived it firsthand, the memory of terror and courage lingered far longer than any news cycle. Later in the quiet of the station, Officer Daniels watched Titan sleep, ears twitching occasionally even in rest. He whispered softly, "You saved her today, buddy. You saved her and everyone around." Titan's tail thumped once in acknowledgement, a silent hero content with a job well done. The world outside might have seen chaos and drama, but for them it was a story of instinct, courage, and an unbreakable bond between human and dog. And somewhere deep in her heart, the mute woman felt something shift, a newfound sense of safety, of courage, and of connection. Though she could not speak, she had learned that even in the darkest moments, heroes could come in the form of 4 legs, fur, and unwavering loyalty. The mall had survived, the attacker was behind bars, and the bond between Titan, Officer Daniels, and the woman would quietly echo in their lives forever.